We always focus on the moment a hacker breaks in, but the real damage? That happens after they're already inside your network, moving silently for days, sometimes even weeks. So today, we're going to put on our detective hats. We're going to follow the digital breadcrumbs they leave behind and uncover the real anatomy of a modern ransomware attack.
So, let's set the scene. A hacker is in. They're on your network. What happens next? Well, I can tell you it's almost never the instant smash and grab you see in the movies. No. It's more like a patient, methodical hunt. See, the attacker's goal isn't just to lock your files anymore. It's to take complete control of the whole operation. And that takes time.
This whole phase, it has a name. It's called post-exploitation. And it really only has one goal: get complete control. The attackers want to move around completely undetected, escalate their privileges, steal your most sensitive data, and only then do they deploy the ransomware. To pull that off, they have to stay absolutely silent for as long as possible.
All right, so where does our investigation begin? Well, it starts at the first and most critical step for any attacker: stealing passwords. See, to move from one computer to another, they need the keys to the kingdom, or in this case, credentials. So the big question is, how do we figure out how they got them?
Well, let me introduce you to the attacker's favorite digital lockpicking kit, a tool called Mimikatz. You can think of it like something that can read the faint imprint of a key that was left in a bar of soap. It literally pulls usernames and passwords directly from a computer's active memory, and a lot of the time, they're in plain text. It's so good at what it does, it's usually the very first tool they deploy after a breach.
Now, this is where the real cat and mouse game kicks off. Attackers know we're looking for Mimikatz, so they try to be clever. They disguise it with random names and then delete it right after they use it, hoping to cover their tracks. But here's the investigator's edge. On a computer, nothing is ever truly gone. Every single action leaves a digital fingerprint.
And boom, here's our first clue. Investigators dig into a system log called AMCache. Think of it like a computer's security camera. It records every single program that runs. And they spot this: a file with a totally random, nonsensical name running from the C:"program data folder. Now that is a huge red flag. It's kind of like finding someone hiding in your basement. Legitimate programs just don't run there.
So they start pulling on that thread, and it leads to a massive breakthrough. A quick check of the antivirus logs shows this critical alert. Cobalt Strike, which is a powerful and really sophisticated hacking tool, was detected in that exact same folder. Okay, this tells us we're not dealing with some amateur here. This is a serious professional intrusion.
And then they find it, the smoking gun. Investigators find something called a prefetch file for a program named sk.exe. This file is like a ghost image. It proves a program was run even if the program itself has been deleted. So they take a unique digital fingerprint of that file, it's called a hash, and they look it up in a global database. And the result? The file's true identity is SafetyCats, a well-known version of Mimikatz. We've officially found their password stealing tool.
But wait, the attackers got even sneakier. Instead of just using an obvious hacking tool, they actually hijacked a legitimate, trusted Windows process called rundll32.exe. Think of it like a criminal putting on a security guard's uniform to just walk around unnoticed. They used this trusted process to call another system file, which then dumped all the credentials from memory. It's a classic technique called living off the land, and it makes them incredibly hard to spot.
And the evidence is just undeniable. Investigators found the attacker's literal command history saved in a PowerShell log. I mean, look at this. You can see the exact command they used to dump the memory of a process called LSAS, creating that lsas.dmp file. That file is the credential goldmine. The log also confirms they ran sk.exe and another tool called rubius.exe, which is used for a totally different kind of password attack.
Okay, so the attacker has passwords. What's next? Well, you can't attack what you can't see, right? The next phase is all about reconnaissance. They need to create a detailed map of the entire network to figure out where the most valuable targets are, like your domain controllers and your file servers.
So the investigation uncovers another key piece of evidence, this time from something called the System Resource Usage Monitor, or SRUM database. You can think of this as the computer's activity tracker. It logs network connections and what programs are being used. And sure enough, it shows a program called netscan.exe was executed. I mean, the name is a dead giveaway, right? The attacker was casing the joint, digitally walking the halls to see what other computers were on the network.
And then, investigators hit the jackpot. They find a simple little script named a.bat. But inside this tiny file is the attacker's entire playbook. It contains a series of commands using a tool called adfind to systematically query the network's directory for literally everything. All user accounts, all computers, all server groups, and all network subnets. They were building a complete blueprint for their attack.
So, let's recap. The attacker has passwords, and they have a map of the entire network. The next logical step? That's lateral movement. It's all about using those stolen credentials to move silently from that first compromised machine to other, more valuable systems. And to do this, they created another script, this one called RDP-BAT. Its whole purpose was to create a permanent backdoor just for them. First, it enables remote desktop connections, or RDP. Second, it punches a hole in the firewall to allow those connections through. And third, it weakens a security setting just to make logging in even easier for them later.
But, did the script actually work? Well, the digital evidence doesn't lie. On the left, investigators see that the registry key that normally denies remote connections has been switched to 0, which means it's now allowed. And on the right, the firewall log confirms that the remote desktop rule was enabled. The backdoor is officially wide open.
And here it is, the final piece of proof for this stage. The RDP connection logs show a successful login to the new machine using the stolen administrator account, and it's coming from the attacker's first compromised machine, 192.168.177. They literally just walked right in through the front door that they had just built for themselves.
Okay, so now that we have all the clues, we've got the tools, the scripts, the logs, we can finally put all the pieces of this puzzle together and reconstruct the entire attack from start to finish, minute by minute. And when we lay it all out on a timeline like this, the speed is just staggering. At 12 o'clock, the Cobalt Strike backdoor is active. Just 5 minutes later, they're stealing passwords. By 12:12, they're already scanning the network. In less than 50 minutes, they've gone from a single foothold to compromising a second, high-value machine. It's just a fast, efficient, and absolutely devastating chain of events.
So why? Why go through all this trouble? Because modern ransomware isn't just about locking your files anymore. That's old news. The true goal of this long, silent, post-exploitation phase is data exfiltration. They spend all this time finding your most valuable data, your financial records, customer lists, intellectual property, and they steal it before they ever encrypt a single file. And this sets them up for what's called double extortion. You have to pay to unlock your files, and then you have to pay again so they don't leak your stolen data to the world. This whole meticulous reconstruction, it tells the story of one single attack that was caught and analyzed. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? With attackers operating this silently and this effectively, just how many of these digital crime scenes go completely undiscovered?